This week I'm going to introduce you all to a new Google app that I've not spoken about before, and that is Jamboard. Jamboard is a fantastic app that I discovered during lockdown. At first, when I looked at it, I thought I didn't really get it. But then the more I kind of played with it, and the more we used it in year six last year and this year, we realised the potential of it. So I'm going to jump in this first week. I'm going to show you Jamboard on a computer. Where Jamboard really comes alive, and you can get the best use out of it, is on the iPads. So this is essentially a kind of setup. This is the teacher side of things to make a Jamboard. Then next week I'm going to show you Jamboard and the experience on an iPad instead. So just to show you how I got to Jamboard, I went to New, so I'm on Google Drive. I went to New, then I need to go to More, and then Jamboard. Okay, so it's opened up here. And you can see straight away there's not a massive amount of information on here, which is good. You've got a few tools down the side, you've got a couple of options at the top. It's very limited, which, again, that's no bad thing for what we want it to do. Jamboard is essentially a whiteboard on the computer, but a whiteboard with superpowers, I'd say, because you can drop in pictures. You can add typed notes, so you can add sticky notes that you can then move about easily. You can draw on there with different coloured pens, and you can rub things out very easily. You can set backgrounds, so we can have a squared background. We can have isometric dots. We can have lines. But one of the main things that we've used Jamboard for are for going paperless, not having to use reams and reams of printouts for things. And that's with a combination of Jamboard and posting work on Google Classroom. So I'm going to set up three things. So the first one, in our science topic in year 6, we're looking at adaptations of animals. So I'm just going to choose a picture, probably not this Coca-Cola one. Let's go with that one because we can see the whole of the polar bear. So I'm going to right click that, and I'm going to save my image because I want to drop that image into Jamboard. So let's type in polar bear, and let's save that. And you can see it's popped up at the bottom there. If I go back to my Jamboard, two ways of adding a picture. This is the first way. I'll do both ways and talk about the kind of benefits of each. So I press add image, simply drag and drop it in. You can see as well that there are different options here. So you can save pictures to your Google Drive and access them directly through the drive. But I think it's easiest to drag and drop things in. And it will just take a moment to upload. And there we go. We can move that about. We can make it bigger, make it smaller. So that's the first way of adding an image. Now, the benefits, but also the negatives of that, is the fact that the children can move it about easily themselves. The other way of adding a picture is setting it as a background, and that will essentially lock it in place so that they cannot move it. So I'm going to set backgrounds. I'm going to add here, and again, drag and drop, and wait for it to load up. Okay, so not the best picture because it's a bit pixelated, but you can see it's filled the screen. What they can't do though is they cannot move it, they can't easily delete it, because as we found in year 6 when we've used this before, it only takes a slight slip to delete, and then if you then draw something and then try to get it back, it might not come. Okay, so positives and negatives to that, to me to do that. So, but obviously if you wanted a picture that, so clear frame, it's still there, but let's try a different picture. Let's have a look at maybe this one. So let's just save image there as polar bear 2. And let's try dropping that one in as backgrounds. So I can change my background just by pressing that ends one. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. That one is a lot more crisper. Okay, so that's my one. I can use this for science, because what I could do for showing how they've adapted is press onto the sticky notes. I can type in padded feet to help with walking in the snow, for example. And then I can move that about. I can put it where the feet are, or I can draw a line. Now again, this is going to be a little bit messy when I've drawn, because I'm trying to use the mouse on screen. Where it will become a lot more accurate, a lot neater, is when I actually use it on an iPad, which I'll show again next week. So, that's one thing that you can do. I've taken some clips, so I've taken some screen grabs of some different things, which I'm going to drop in. Again, I'm going to use backgrounds. Didn't mean to do that. So another one that you could do, which you could do with pretty much any subject at all, is some key vocabulary. So I did this on the Google Docs, typed in the words, took a screenshot of it, and I've just dropped it in using the upload. So I just dragged it in and uploaded it here. I could then add the definitions. So for example, the speed or pace of a piece of music. Save that. And then you could have these kind of dotted around randomly around either side of the table. The children would then drag them and drop them into the right place. So I'll finish off doing a few more definitions again to show next week. Final thing which we used lots of during the lockdown and afterwards as well, because again in year 6 we can't get away from the fact that we need to look at past SAT questions. So I've taken some screenshots of a few from the last SATs paper. I'm just going to drop that into there, because obviously there's no real way around it that when you want to print off past SAT questions, it's going to be easily 4, 6, 7 pages of questions that they won't actually spend that long on. And just look and say, is it really worth the amount of printing out? If it's just 4 pages for 30 children, you're looking at a lot of printing and stapling costs and everything else if you're doing it on a regular basis. And as we get to 90 children in year 6, that's going to obviously rocket even further. So you can drag and drop questions in. Again, I've just taken screenshots of these. So let's set another one. And again, I've taken these kind of off the recording screen. So I'm just dragging them off, but they could be on your desktop. You just drag them in. Okay, so I've got here a few different examples. We'll leave a blank page as well, because there's a couple of things on the iPad version of Jamboard that aren't on the desktop version. What I'm going to need to do, because I've realised I've done this on the example account, and I can't set work as the example account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it with myself, and then I'm going to share it back on Google Classroom. So let me just go into my Google Classroom, which is, there it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set a new assignment, but I'm just going to send it to the example, because this is one thing that you need to do when you're setting Jamboards, and this is where we kind of found a bit of an issue the very first time that we did it. So let's try and add. So untitled Jamboard, there it is. Okay, now students can view the file. That's no good because they'll just be able to see it. And where we went wrong is if you go students can edit the file, that means that every child will access the same Jamboard. And this is where at first I didn't see the point in Jamboard, because we had, I think it was only 10 children we tried it out with, all on the same Jamboard, and it was just carnage. They just deleted things and moved things, and it wasn't great. So what you're better off doing is make a copy for every student. And another reason why that's a really good thing to do is that they don't actually have to log into Google Classroom on the iPads. They just log into Jamboard in their accounts, and then they can access the Jamboard. So I'm just going to put in, here is the example Jamboard. As I said, this is only going to the example accounts, and then in next week's session I will show you what Jamboard looks like when you access it from an iPad, which again is what the children will be doing. Okay, so that is a kind of run through of Jamboard on the desktop and how to set up something that the children can then use themselves. Okay, that's it for today.